Hello, today is Friday, March 1st, and welcome to episode 304 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. I'm NSI's Senior Fellow Lester Munson. I'm joined today by my fellow Senior Fellows, Bishop Garrison and Morgan Vigna. Today we're going to talk about a new initiative this week from the Department of Commerce, which has asked for public comment on the question of data shared by connected vehicles and whether that data could be a national security threat. Some of that data could end up in China or other countries, Russia, countries of very much concern to the United States. What are the prospects for some sort of regulation here? Is it wise? Is this the kind of thing we should be worried about? What are the limits? How much should we be concerned? Bishop, thanks a lot for joining us this morning. It's great to have you on the pod. What are your thoughts about Gina Raimondo's initiative here?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think the secretary is making a great move here because again, this is not an outright effort to regulate the industry. This is an initial step that's going forward to ask additional questions to kind of make a little bit of an investigation to say what are the actual capabilities of this system and how is this data being potentially utilized by the companies that are capturing it, because this is broader than just China. While China is a major concern in regards to this type of technology, this is about foreign adversaries generally. And we know that we've had issues again with Chinese hackers, with Chinese state-based, to be clear, state-based, state-supported hackers, with Chinese entities stealing IP. So it's even broader than just the privacy concerns. We're talking about IP, we're talking about privacy, we're talking about national security here. So I think to take this initial step and just say, whoa, who has what type of capabilities and how can they be leveraged against these types of connected vehicles? Because it also begs the question, well, how might this type of software be used in the Internet of Things and other types of smart devices? I think just to stop and ask this question is really important.
Morgan, I am the proud lessor of a red Tesla, and it is, in fact, like driving around a giant phone. Feels very much like it. It's a lot of fun to drive, but it is a little different than the regular car, and it's clearly gathering a ton of data on what I'm doing and what is going on around me and that kind of thing. How concerned are you about this kind of data possibly getting into the wrong hands?
Look, data collection now, we're seeing so much data collection by our phones, by our cars, you name it. And I think when we're talking about EVs in particular, this is just one of many examples that I think we should be considering when it comes to how China is sort of infiltrating our markets, using not only collecting data, but data utilization itself. And so I think all of those questions that you posed at the top, Les, are incredibly valid. It's something that the administration is going to have to start thinking more strategically about. It's something that Congress, particularly the China Select Committee, I know is digging into a lot more. And so this is, I think, just one example of many. Particularly, we had talked previously about the space industry, and how the Chinese state, the PRC, is so heavily invested in that, whereas we are more invested in it from the commercial side. So I think these are all very, very good questions that we should be thinking about moving forward. But again, this is one of, I think, many examples that we're going to be seeing in terms of how industrial policy shifts into and sort of connects to the national security of the United States.
If I could just add to that, something Undersecretary Estevez said on this was a more connected world means more potential vulnerabilities. And I think that really encapsulates what's going on.
So, Morgan, thanks, guys. So, Morgan, I hear the phrase industrial policy, and as a free market Republican type person, my skin starts to crawl. Let me play devil's advocate just for a couple of minutes here. China is the manufacturing powerhouse of the world. It can build things cheaply, quickly, efficiently, and generally pretty well. Its automobile industry is surging. It is already the world's largest manufacturer of electric vehicles, which is clearly where the market is going. How much of this might be simple protectionism on behalf of the United States and behalf of the folks in our commercial sector who are being threatened by, yet another cheap, good product, what you could call good product from China. Please, thoughts here. Morgan, I'll go to you first.
It's a conundrum. It's a conundrum, Les. And as a free marketeer, I am wildly uncomfortable with protectionist policies that would sort of disrupt the market, or the free market, I should say. But generally speaking, I think that there is a line that is going to be crossed at some point. And right now, I think that line is very gray between at what point does industrial policy cross into national security, and to what extent does importing Chinese vehicles, which, by the way, have incredibly high tariffs on them already, so they don't actually have a very robust presence in the United States as it is. But to what point does crossing that line into the national security space, where you have data collection on Americans, and to what extent that actually poses a national security risk? These are questions that I don't think we necessarily have answers to right now, but it's something that I know Congress and the administration are clearly taking a very close look at.
Bishop, let me give you a little wrinkle on it. What if China starts selling us really cheap electric vehicles that will save the planet from climate change? Is that really such a terrible thing?
Well, I don't think in and of itself that would necessarily be terrible, but I also believe in the American auto industry, and I think they're going to be able to be competitive and create a better product at the end of the day that people will want to buy into more if that were the case. Now, that being said, no one is trying to fight China on their ability to buy this stuff. We're just protecting our interests here in terms of protecting the American people and national security overall. We're asking questions. No one is stopping anything at this point. We're not building out any specific regulations as of yet. We just want to understand more what the capabilities are, because we kind of talked about this in terms of that the potential hazards or potential harm this could create. But they're the future technologies, these cutting edge things that we just don't understand fully how our adversaries may be able to use against us. As Morgan kind of was saying before we kicked it off here, talking about the Bond villain that has the ability to build out these crazy things. I think we're seeing more and more that science fiction is catching up with reality. And we need to understand more. Are you telling me that a hacker is going to be able to break into your shiny, beautiful red Tesla and do some harm? Run a stoplight, run into a tree? I don't know. And I think Secretary Armando is smart and right, and Undersecretary Estevez, when they just say, "Hey, we need to take in more data on this and understand how this data is being used."
Morgan, I'm going to ask you a Hill nerd question. You mentioned the China committee, chaired by our good buddy, Congressman Mike Gallagher, who sadly is retiring. That China committee could go away at the end of this year. The control of the House could flip. That committee might not be there. It was a Republican initiative for the most part, although it was bipartisan. It may not be there. It doesn't have any legislative authority. We're seeing a little bit of energy in the executive here, frankly, which is maybe this is a good thing. But how confident are you Congress can handle this? There's 18 different committees that have jurisdiction here next year if the China committee goes away. So can Congress act?
This is a cross-jurisdictional issue, and it's one thing that I know has caused some heartburn on behalf of some chairmen who have jurisdiction over the China space. But at the same time, though, I think that's a real question for House leadership. Whether that's Mike Johnson or Hakeem Jeffries, in the next Congress, leading the Congress. I know if Congress does flip, Hakeem Jeffries has said before that he is favorably predisposed towards the China committee. So I think there's a chance that if Dems take the House, there's a good chance it stays. But I also think if Republicans continue to maintain a majority, it also has a good chance of being reauthorized. So I am optimistic. Clearly, Chairman Gallagher has done a remarkable job at bringing light to this issue. He and his ranking member have really done a remarkable job at really focusing in on U.S. national security and how that and how China affects the security of the average American. And so while I do think a lot of other committees that have a piece to this could and should certainly play a role here, I think that continued laser-like focus on China is probably, something good that the United States needs to maintain momentum on.
Bishop, we're going to keep that committee next year?
Yeah, I believe so. I think, look, you got strong bipartisan support of this issue. Andy Kim has been right there, being a strong liberal leader in terms of holding China accountable. You have tremendous wealth and expertise in progressive national security experts who are members of the House right now, or veterans. So you're going to continue, I think, to see the type of support, kind of the type of bipartisan work across the aisle that Morgan kind of laid out. I mean, and we should all be thankful for that in the sense that this is one of the few issues that they can definitely get along on and understand the importance of, because again, we're trying to ensure that we protect the interests of the American people while ensuring that capitalism has the opportunity and ability to continue to thrive the way it has for generations in America. I'm a Dem. I don't try to hide that at all. But I also am a capitalist, and I believe in what America stands for and the opportunities it presents through many of its industries. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. An opportunity to provide proper protections and to continue to have the correct level and oversight necessary for these industries to properly thrive.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks so much to Devlin Burney, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for their help in producing today's episode. Join us again on Monday, March 4th for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debates shaking up America. Fault Lines is now on YouTube, so check out our channel for a video of today's episode. If you like what you heard or saw, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.